Clear. Okay. First thing you want to do is figure out what is the shape at the bottom. And this is a rectangle. So because it's a rectangle, to find the area of a rectangle, it's just length times width. So we have to find the area of the base, which is just going to be 7 times 5, which is 35. And then you need to figure out how tall is the pyramid. Well, this pyramid, if you look here at the diagram, that 3 represents how tall it is. That's the height. So the height is 3. And to find the volume of a rectangular pyramid or any pyramid, you have to find the area of the bottom, multiply that by the height, and then divide it by 3. And that formula is also here. It's on your, at the top of your bell work slide. So we're going to take 35 times 3 divided by 3, which gives you 35 centimeters cubed. And that would be your answer. Your test is next Wednesday. Any questions about how we did our bell work? Okay, so now we have some composite shapes that we're going to go through. So in your note packet, I think the first one is page 20. So go to page 20 in your notes, and we have to figure out what kind of shape, because this is 2 different shapes that we have here. You have it? Okay. So we have 2 different shapes here. The first thing we have at the top is half of a sphere. Does everyone see that? This shape at the top it looks like a ball. This is half of a sphere. This part here is 1/2 of a sphere. So let's start with that. In your notes from yesterday, the volume of a sphere is, let me just look over there. The volume of a sphere, 4 pi r cubed over 3. But because it's half of a sphere, whatever we get, we're going to divide it by 2. So what is the radius of this sphere? 8. So in your calculator, I want you to type in 4 times pi times 8 to the power of 3 divided by 3. So figure out what that number is. So take 4 times pi times 8 to the power of 3. And see what you get. So I'm going to do it with you. So I got 4 pi 8 to the power of 3 divided by 3. Does anyone need help typing that in their calculator? So you should get 2144.7. Who got that? But this isn't a whole sphere. It's only half of a sphere. So what we need to do with that number is we need to figure out what is half of that volume. So in your calculator, take that number that you got for the sphere and divide it by 2. Because it's not a whole. Does everyone see how it's not a whole ball? It's only half of a ball. That's why we have to divide it by 2, because it's half. Leo, are you okay? You need to stand up? Okay. So let's, in your calculator, take 2,144.7. I said multiply it by 1/2, but you can also just divide it by 2. I don't know which way would be easier for you to do it. You probably would type it in like that. All right, so let's go ahead and see what you get. So Xavier, what did you get when you divided that number by 2?
1,072.35.
Okay, so that's for the top part. Any questions? Okay, so now we have this shape at the bottom. What do we call this part here? What shape is that? A cone. So now we need to figure out the volume of the cone. So yesterday, in our notes, we figured out that volume of a cone, to figure out volume of a cone, it would be volume equals, I gotta look over there, I gotta look at my little cheat wall, pi r squared h over 3. Now, is that a whole cone? It's the whole cone, right? So we don't have to divide that by 2. So we're going to figure out, when we look at our cone, the radius is still 8. So it'll be 8 squared. The height of our cone right here, what is that number right here? How long is the cone? 10. Kimmy, don't forget to do the sub assignment for tomorrow.
Is it due by the end of the period or by the
It's
end of the day?
the end of the period for you. Okay. So then we're going to multiply that by 10 and divide that by 3. So go ahead, type that in your calculator, see what you get. So what you get, Clea? 0.2. Okay, who else? Anybody else get that? All right, so now to find the total, we have to add these together because there's 2 different shapes. So you're going to add this number and this number. So our total area, the total is that 1,072.35 plus the 670.2. So there's 2 shapes, so you have to find them individually and then add them together. .55, and that would be centimeters cubed. And that would be your total answer. On the test, you're going to have a shape where it's 2 shapes put together. Any questions about how we work through that question? So I'll give you a minute and we're going to do it again. Let's look at the question at the bottom. Again, we have half of a sphere and we have a cone. So looking at this question, I'm going to start with the cone again. So right here, this is my cone. I'm sorry, that's not a cone, that's a sphere. So I'm going to start with this. So again, we got half of a cone. I keep saying cone. Half of a sphere plus a cone. That's what we have to figure out. So let's start off with half of the sphere. Half of the sphere So we have and a cone. I am struggling with my iPad today. Okay, there we go. So let's start off with the sphere. So we have, again, the radius is 8, so it's just like the question before. So we cannot actually use the exact same number that we did in the last example. So we have 4 pi r cubed over 3. Go ahead and see what you get. But again, because that's half of a sphere, we have to take that number and divide it by 2. So that's the first step. Okay, now everybody, I want you to find the volume of the cone. For your cone, the radius is 8 and the height is 17. So go ahead and figure out what would be the volume of that cone. So to find volume of a cone, the volume of our cone is going to equal pi r squared h divided by 3. So go ahead and figure out what you get for that number. All right, who got 1139.4? All right, so now what do you have to do with these two numbers that I boxed up? Add them together. So let's find our total. So I want you to add these two numbers to get our total volume. So the total volume is 1072.35 plus 1139.4. What did you get when you added those together? That's the number? 2211.7. Who else? Anybody else get that? And then what's our unit? Millimeters cubed. All right, so there's one more composite shape. So I want you to flip back in your packet to page 16. So now we have two different shapes put together. So what we have in this one, at the top we have a what? What do we call this shape? A pyramid. And what kind of base do we have on this pyramid? A rectangle or a square. So what we have is we have And this one, we have a rectangular pyramid. And we're going to add that to, what do we have at the bottom? What is this called? A prism. And we're adding that to a rectangular prism. So let's go ahead and finish this one out. So when we start with this prism, to find the volume of the prism, the first thing you want to do, this is the base. This is kind of like what you had to do in your bell work. You're going to multiply the lengths of your two bases. So first we're going to find the area of the base, which would be 6 times 6. Let me write the formula for volume of a prism. Volume of a prism is area of the base times the height. So you're going to figure out the area of the base, which is 6 times 6. Six times 6 is 36. And then you're going to figure out the height. So I'm only looking at the height of the prism. What is the height of my prism? 3. So you're going to take, to find the volume, you take 36 times 3. And what do you get? What's 36 times 3? 108. You should have 108. Okay, so we're going to leave that number to the side because in a minute I'm going to add that to something. For this pyramid, the pyramid, here's your formula for volume of a pyramid. The B that you use for the volume of the pyramid is the same as the volume of the prism. So my B value, the area of the base for my pyramid, is still 36. But the height of the pyramid is different. So do you see here how we have this line? That represents the height because you see this little 90-degree angle. That means that I'm using 5 for the height of my pyramid. So I have the height is 5. So to find the volume, you're going to take 36 times 5 divided by 3. That's your formula. So go ahead and figure out what you get. All right, who got 60? Make sure it's 60. Pick up your calculators and double check your numbers. Take 36 times 5 and divide that by 3. You should get 60. So now to find your total, you're going to add your two numbers together. So your last part, part C, is 108 plus 60. Which is 168 inches cubed. And that would be your final answer. All right, use the remaining time to finish out homework 3. Homework 3, I am giving extra credit for it today. If you finish it, bring it up. Tomorrow, the sub assignment is already posted. It's at the very top.